Somewhere in your garage, your shed, or the bottom of a toolbox, there is a piece of iron you've already given up on. A wrench welded shut with rust. A cast iron pan someone told you was ruined. An old hand plane, a vise, a hatchet, a set of your grandfather's tools, orange and pitted and frozen solid that you keep meaning to throw away because everyone knows once something rusts that badly, it is finished. Here's what nobody told you. It is not finished. That rust is not permanent damage. It is a chemical reaction, and chemical reactions can be run backwards. For about $2 in an afternoon, you can pull 100 years of rust off that tool and bring it back from the dead, using nothing more than a plastic tub, a scoop of laundry aisle powder, and a battery charger you probably already own. The store wants to sell you the answer in a bottle. Rust removal gels, navel jelly, spray-on converters, the fancy branded soap that runs $20 to $30 a jug and eats a hole in your wallet faster than it eats the rust. And those work, more or less. But they are the expensive, disposable, buy-it-again version of something the world's finest museums do for pennies, on artifacts worth millions, using a technique that has been sitting in plain sight for over 200 years. It is called electrolysis, and once you see it work, you will never throw away a rusty tool again. By the end of this video, you're going to build the tank that does it. Let me show you the result first, so you know exactly where we are headed. This is a wrench I pulled out of a bucket of scrap. Completely seized, orange from end to end, the kind of thing you would not think twice about tossing. This is that same wrench 12 hours later, out of the tank. The rust is gone. Every crevice, every thread, every spot a wire brush could never reach, cleaned right down to bare metal with almost no scrubbing and no elbow grease. I did not sand it. I did not grind it. I hung it in a tub of water and let electricity do the work while I slept. And the whole setup cost me about $2 in materials. So the question that should be nagging at you is the obvious one. If this is this cheap, this easy, and this effective, why is the hardware store selling you $30 jugs of rust remover instead? Why did nobody teach you this? Why is the default answer in this country to throw the tool away and buy a new one? Stay with me, because the answer runs through a laboratory in London in the year 1800, through the quiet back rooms of the world's great museums where conservators use this exact method on priceless treasures, and straight into the throwaway economy that would rather sell you a new wrench than teach you to save the one you already own. Once you understand this, that pile of rusty junk in your garage stops looking like trash and starts looking like a savings account. Let me start with what rust actually is, because once you understand that, the whole trick makes perfect sense and stops feeling like magic. Rust is not dirt. It is not something that landed on your tool from the outside. Rust is your tool, chemically transformed. When iron meets oxygen and water over time, the iron atoms give up some of their electrons to the oxygen and they bond together into a new substance, iron oxide, which is the flaky orange stuff we call rust. That is the key idea. The metal did not get dirty. It got chemically changed, and it did so by losing electrons. Now here's the beautiful part, the part that Michael Faraday worked out the laws of nearly 200 years ago. If rust forms because iron loses electrons, then you can reverse it, or at least break its grip completely by pushing electrons back in. And pushing electrons is exactly what electricity is. That is the whole secret. You are going to use a gentle flow of electricity to shove electrons back into that rusted metal, loosening the bond between the iron and the oxygen until the rust simply lets go, releases from the surface, and floats away, leaving the good metal underneath untouched. It is not sanding. It is not dissolving. It is unrusting. Chemistry, run in reverse. This is not a fringe idea, and it is not something a clever hobbyist invented on the internet. The foundation goes back to the very dawn of the science of electricity. In the year 1800, two English researchers named William Nicholson and Anthony Carlisle ran an electric current through water and watched it split into hydrogen and oxygen gas. It was one of the first times in history anyone had used electricity to drive a chemical reaction, and it opened the door to an entire field called electrochemistry. A few decades later, Michael Faraday, one of the greatest experimental scientists who ever lived, worked out the precise mathematical laws governing how electricity moves matter in these reactions. The principles you're about to use in a plastic tub in your garage were mapped out by the founders of modern physics. This is settled 200-year-old science. And here's the part that should really make you sit up, because it proves this is not some crude backyard shortcut. This exact technique, electrolytic reduction, is one of the primary methods that professional conservators use to preserve priceless historical artifacts. When archaeologists pull an iron cannon, an anchor, a sword, or a set of tools up from a shipwreck after 200 or 300 years on the ocean floor, encrusted and corroded almost beyond recognition, they do not sandblast it. Sandblasting would destroy the delicate surface and any detail underneath. Instead, they place it in an electrolytic bath, the museum-grade version of the tank you're about to build. And they use a slow, gentle current to draw the corrosion out and stabilize the metal, sometimes over weeks or months. The treasures you see behind glass in maritime museums, recovered from the deep and looking remarkably intact, were very often saved by this precise process. The most careful, expensive, high-stakes metal restoration in the world uses the same physics you can set up on your workbench for $2. Now, before I show you how to build your tank, I want to talk to the person watching this who's already thinking about the rusty tools they own. You are exactly who this channel is for. Not to sell you anything, because there is nothing to sell, only a skill you learn once and use for the rest of your life. If saving good things instead of tossing them and buying new matters to you, subscribe, because that is the whole point of this place. And send this to the person you know who has a garage full of their father's or grandfather's old tools, going orange in a corner, because those tools are not junk. They are heirlooms, one afternoon away from working again, and they deserve to know it. Now stay with me, because before we build, I have to answer the question that has probably been bothering you since the start. If this is 200-year-old science, if museums use it, if it costs almost nothing, why is it not common knowledge? Why does the hardware store point you at a $30 jug instead of a box of washing powder? And I'm not going to hand you a shadowy villain, because the truth is quieter and it will stick with you longer. Nobody outlawed electrolysis. Nobody's hiding it. The reason is simply that there is no money in it. A technique that uses $2 of common household powder and a tool you already own generates no product sales, no repeat purchases, no branded bottle to restock. A $30 jug of rust remover that you use up and buy again does. And underneath that sits something bigger, the entire throwaway culture we have been trained into. It is faster and more profitable for everyone selling to you if your response to a rusted tool is to throw it out and buy a shiny new one than if you fix the one in your hand. So the cheap, permanent, empowering answer was never promoted. It was just left to gather dust, exactly like the tools it could save, while you were sold the expensive, disposable version instead. That is not a conspiracy. It is just the math of a system that profits when you replace things and loses when you repair them. And that math has never once been on your side. So let's flip it. Let me show you exactly how to build your rust removal tank. And I promise it is simpler than almost anything else in your garage. But I need you to follow the safety points closely, because while this is easy, there are 2 rules that are not optional, and I will get to both. You need 5 things. First, a container. Plastic tub, a bucket, a storage bin, anything non-metal, big enough to hold the item you want to clean with room around it. Plastic only. Never metal, because the whole tub would become part of the circuit. Second, water. Plain tap water, enough to submerge your rusty item. Third, washing soda. This is sodium carbonate, and you will find it in the laundry aisle for a few dollars a box, often labeled as a laundry booster. Do not confuse it with baking soda, which is a different compound, sodium bicarbonate. You want washing soda, sodium carbonate. You add it to the water at roughly 1 tablespoon per gallon, and its only job is to make the water conduct electricity well. A box costs a few dollars, and lasts for dozens of batches, which is where the $2 figure comes from. Fourth, a sacrificial anode. This is just a piece of scrap iron or plain mild steel, a length of This is just a piece of scrap iron or plain mild steel, a length of rebar, an old flat bar, a chunk of scrap that you will hang in the tub to receive the rust that leaves your tool. It gets dirty, so your tool gets clean, which is why we call it sacrificial. And I'm going to stop right here for the first non-negotiable safety rule because it matters enormously. Your sacrificial anode must be plain iron or mild steel. Never ever use stainless steel as your anode. When stainless steel is used as the anode in this process, it releases toxic chromium compounds into the solution, creating a genuine health and environmental hazard. Plain steel or iron only. Remember that. The fifth thing is your power source. And for this, a standard battery charger, the kind you use to jump or charge a car battery, is perfect. A basic manual charger putting out a few amps at 12 volts is ideal. This is low voltage, direct current, gentle and forgiving. Now here's the assembly, and pay close attention to the wiring, because getting it backwards ruins everything. Fill your tub with water and stir in your washing soda, about a tablespoon per gallon until it dissolves. Hang your sacrificial steel anode on one side of the tub, making sure a good portion of it is submerged, but keep the top where you will clip the wire dry and above the water line. Suspend your rusty tool in the water so it is fully submerged but not touching the anode. A wire, a wooden dowel across the top, anything to hang it works. Now the critical connection. Connect the positive clip of your charger, the red one, the plus, to the sacrificial anode, the scrap piece. Connect the negative clip, the black one, the minus, to your rusty tool, the thing you want to save. I will say it once more because this is the single most common mistake. Negative to the good tool, positive to the scrap. If you reverse this, you will not clean your tool. You will actively rust it faster and slowly destroy your scrap onto it, doing the exact opposite of what you want. Negative, the black clip, always goes to the item you're saving. Now the second non-negotiable safety rule, and then we turn it on. When you power this up, the process produces hydrogen and oxygen gas bubbling off the surfaces in the tank. That mixture is flammable, and in an enclosed space it can be dangerous. So this must be done in a well-ventilated area, ideally outdoors or in a fully open garage, and there must be absolutely no open flames, no sparks, no cigarettes, no pilot lights nearby. Never do this in a small sealed room. Never cover or seal the container while it is running. Let those gases disperse into open air. Wear gloves because the solution is mildly caustic. And always unplug the charger before you reach into the tank or adjust anything. Follow those two rules: no stainless anode and plenty of ventilation with no flames, and this process is safe and simple. Turn it on. Within seconds, you will see fine bubbles rising from your tool. That is the reaction working, electrons flowing in, rust letting go. Over the next several hours, the water will turn brown and murky, a scummy layer will form on top, and your sacrificial anode will get filthy. That is all rust, leaving your tool and collecting where it belongs. For a lightly rusted item, a few hours may be enough. For something badly encrusted, leave it overnight, 8 to 12 hours. When you pull it out, it will be covered in a loose black residue, which is simply the loosened, debonded rust. A quick scrub with a brush or a scouring pad underwater wipes it right off, revealing the bare metal underneath, clean in every pit and crevice a wire wheel could never have reached. Dry it immediately and completely, and wipe it with a little oil, because bare, fresh metal will flash rust fast if you leave it wet. And that is it. A dead tool, resurrected for pennies. Now I have to be as honest with you as this channel always is, because a promise without its limits is just a sales pitch, and I'm not selling you anything. Let me be very clear about what this does and does not do. This works on iron and steel only. It will not clean aluminum, brass, copper, or other non-ferrous metals, and you should not put them in the tank. It removes rust, but it cannot restore metal that the rust already ate away. If corrosion has eaten deep pits into your tool, those pits will still be there when the rust is gone, clean but pitted. This resurrects the tool. It does not travel back in time. It also will not fix a tool that is cracked or structurally broken. It only deals with the rust. And it works best on solid iron and steel objects, not on delicate items with springs, fine mechanisms, or anything you cannot afford to also strip of any protective plating, because it will lift old finishes too. Used for what it is good at, cleaning rust off solid ferrous tools and hardware, it is close to miraculous. Just know its edges, and you will never be disappointed by it. Because here's the truth this whole story has been building toward. The chemistry has not changed since Nicholson and Carlisle split water in 1800. Rust has always been reversible. Electrons have always flowed the same way, and the museums have quietly known it for a century. The only thing that was ever missing was someone telling you plainly that the orange tool in your hand is not garbage. It is a savings account you were trained to throw away. Every rusted wrench, every seized plane, every pitted pan you were about to toss is a good tool one night and a bucket away from working again. And every time you save one instead of buying another, you take a small piece of your independence back from a system that profits when you give up. You just learned the skill that ends that. The most powerful thing you can do with it is not keep it to yourself. Share it with the person restoring their grandfather's tools, the friend who just inherited a rusty toolbox, the neighbor about to throw out a cast iron pan someone swore was ruined. Every time this spreads, a 200-year-old skill gets a little harder to bury under a shelf of $30 bottles. The conservators who save shipwreck treasures and the founders of electrochemistry use the same simple current you now command. Go find the rustiest, most hopeless piece of iron you own, the one you already wrote off. Hang it in a bucket tonight. And in the morning, watch something you thought was dead come back to life. Build it, use it, and stop throwing away what you can save.